Hello, everyone. Welcome to What's Your Edge, a series of Vision Edge marketing podcasts dedicated to helping you use data, analytics, process, and measurement to create a competitive edge for you and a superior experience for your customers. I'm your host, Laura Patterson, President of Vision Edge Marketing. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Heather Valentine to the conversation. Heather is a seasoned growth executive with over 25 years of experience leading high-performing teams in the SaaS-based healthcare and life science technology sectors. Her career spans the entire innovation lifecycle, making her a perfect fit for our discussion today on barriers to revenue growth. And I've had the privilege of working with Heather for many years. Heather, welcome to What's Your Edge?
Thank you, Laura. Pleasure to be here today.
We are glad to have you. At Vision Edge Marketing, a growth strategy consulting firm, we emphasize the importance of identifying growth barriers as early as possible. Heather, I know you kind of share that philosophy.
Yes.
So to kick things off, what do you think are the 3 to 5 biggest barriers to growth for most organizations?
Yeah, so super great question. We probably could come up with, more than 3 to 5, but in the answer really depends on kind of what stage a company is at in their growth trajectory. But in trying to keep maybe universal answers, things that companies of all sizes grapple with, and I would say the first one is really hiring the right people. And my answers are categories. And so this first one, hiring the right people, it's a whole category. We could have a whole podcast just on that, but that's critical. And what I would add in this category is so many companies I've seen approach the interviewing process without metrics, without a process, without, specific questions in an organized manner. So it's really kind of interesting. But if you get it wrong, it's really extremely costly to companies. The second, I think, is then once assuming you've hired the right people, is giving them the right tools. And what I'm again a category, but what I mean by that is, are you really giving them the right customer-centric tools to be able to communicate value? And I know we're going to talk about some of these topics going forward. And then the third is a little bit related to the second category, but it deserves its own being called out, is really putting the customer at the center of your business. And it kind of sounds like a cliche, but that's what I talk about, customer experience excellence. And here again, this is a large, meaty category, but I would say those three things are pretty universal for all companies, no matter what their size.
I think those are 3 excellent ones to bring up. And it's music to my ears when you're talking about putting the customer at the center of your business. We're all about customer centricity at Vision Edge Marketing. We believe it's really the only way to achieve, you know, and accelerate organic growth. So, you know, it's all good and well to say these things, but it always helps people to be able to have an example or an illustration of the concept. So, do you have a specific example? I mean, you've had an amazing career. So, I know you've
Thank you.
encountered at least one, if not more than one of these barriers. Could you maybe share one and talk a little bit
Sure.
about how you and your team address them?
Yeah, sure. So, because I chose kind of, universal ones, I have experienced all three, but again, I think that digging into category number two is worth it, because what category number two really is value engagement. And so what do we mean by value engagement? It's really being able to identify the value that you're going to bring to your specific customer. So it's very specific, right? And so, okay, yeah, fine. What need are you really trying to solve for your customer? But it's more than that, because it also, value engagement means that you're identifying not only the need, but the value that is going to be created by solving that need. And then the engagement part is then making sure you're measuring that value, and then you're delivering the value so you realize the value. And then I like to add replication, because what I do with this is then replicate it for my commercial teams, so you can go do the same thing easier for the next customer, right? And then you kind of build up a war chest of value, methodologies, if you will.
Amen. Because you know that you and I share this sort of passion about organizing and aligning an organization around business strategies that
Yeah,
create customer value. And the better you can do that, the better you have an opportunity of being successful. And we just were having a
absolutely.
yeah, we were just having a conversation with a customer about, do you know what it means for your customers to achieve success? What is success for them? And do you understand what you need to do or how you can help them create a competitive
Yes.
advantage? And that is really an important, part of answering that question. We
Yeah.
have, and I know you've used them over the years, a number of proven business frameworks to help organizations achieve just these ideas. But
Yes.
identifying the barriers is just one step. I know you know that. And to
Yes.
truly drive growth, it takes exceptional operational excellence. And at Vision Edge Marketing, we define operational excellence as executing business strategy more consistently and reliably than your competition.
Yep.
Well, with lower operational risk, reduced costs, and of course, increased revenue. So, Heather, again, sort of digging deep into that great well of experience that you have, what are some of the operational changes that have been the most impactful for accelerating revenue growth in your
Yeah.
experience?
Yeah. So other than our previous topic, the value realization and so on. And by the way, I was going to add, customers are asking um, vendors, if you will, for these, to create the value, right? Because they can't get their funding for a project unless you do that. So it's kind of a trend. I wanted to make that punctuate that for your viewers and listeners. But I think again, what companies grapple with is truly being a metric driven culture. And even if they think they are, being metric, they're really not, because oftentimes they're measuring the wrong things, right? Things that they think are driving growth, but they're not really double checking and linking it back to growth. And so I would say, really being a metric driven culture. And I'd also like to point out, I'm not talking about micromanaging, because that's a whole separate topic, right?
Yes.
But you have to measure your growth. You have to measure what is accelerating your growth, what is producing growth, and also, as importantly, what is causing lag in your growth too. That's as important to measure, so you can kind of kick it out of your metric driven culture, or get rid of it, or somehow reduce it. Because you have growth drivers and things that produce the growth, but you also have things that take time away from that as well. So you have to measure both, in my opinion. So
Well, you are singing our song because, as you know, we're all about performance measurement and management. So, totally agree with you on that point. And that is a topic that you and I could probably spend lots of time discussing.
for sure.
Measurement, the right measures, and how you move from just measuring activity and measuring effort and output to really measuring something that matters for the organization and that will help the organization move the needle, which is really what you want your measures to help you do. So
Absolutely.
we're right on the same page on that. Heather, I'm curious, what are some of your thoughts on how organizations can sort of balance efficiency? Because everyone always talks about efficiency,
Yeah.
being more efficient with the need for innovation, because innovation is takes time, it takes experiments, failures, all those kinds of
Yeah.
things to maintain a competitive edge. So, what are your thoughts
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah, no, interesting juxtaposition between those two topics, because innovation is king right now, especially in the edge of the technologies that we're we're facing right now, artificial intelligence, machine learning, all these other kinds of things. So innovation is key to stay in a competitive edge. But then if you're only innovating but you're not being efficient at it, then you're not going to realize your total growth. And so I think what people do, it's kind of like what we were talking about with the metric driven culture, but measuring the wrong thing. If they do, I like to call them these flat surveys, like just looking at net promoter score, for example. Or these surveys that I sometimes wonder, how did these people even come up with these questions, right? Because it's the old, junk in, junk out type of thing. And so I really think more people should this efficiency versus innovation juxtaposition, as I mentioned. I think more organizations should spend more time on that, and really come up with multiple measurements in both of those areas, right? And a lot of times, I think I don't see many companies measuring their innovation, right? And I think that's
Yeah.
a real opportunity.
Yes, I agree. And we actually even have a post on our website, visionedgemarketing.com, on measures for the innovation pipeline. Because a lot of people,
Yep.
to your point, excellent point, have forgotten that that's one of the things that is worth measuring, along with the adoption rate for that innovation, right?
Yeah.
Because what good is it if you make something, but it doesn't have any
Right.
adoption and market traction? So,
Yeah.
a really great point.
Yep.
In
Very
addition,
important for competitive edge.
yes, I concur with you. So, one thing, as you know, that we advocate in our company for our customers is to have a continuous improvement culture. A learning organization that used to be a big buzzword, wasn't that long ago, as you and I can probably remember. And neither, the whole idea of continuous improvement is not a new idea. But
Yep.
the idea behind continuous improvement, the ultimate reason for doing it, is so that teams are encouraged to innovate and optimize workflows, right? That's how
Yep.
you get continuous improvement, is from optimizing your workflows. And as part of this culture shift, we've come up with a new term because I think so many terms get overused, and we call it advantageous excellence, which focuses on the strategic innovation and differentiation. And it's designed to help our customers develop unique capabilities, what that will set them apart, give them that differentiation, that competitive edge. So the
Yeah.
benefits of operational excellence, which include improve efficiency and cost savings, and adding advantageous excellence, which drives innovation and competitive differentiation, are maybe things for companies to consider, how they can invest more in. So operational changes happen. We live in
Yep.
a fluid environment. It's dynamic. Business is dynamic. And so we have to be able to be, flexible, agile, adaptive.
Nimble.
But we also have to be aligned to, a customer-centric approach. Otherwise, we'll just, end up in a lot of activity, which takes a lot of time and energy and doesn't necessarily move the ball down the field, as we say here in Texas. So, so that takes us to this topic that you and I started with, customer centricity.
Yes.
I personally, and I know you've heard me say this many times, so I'm not telling you anything you haven't heard me say before, believe that customer centricity is the foundation for creating stellar customer experiences. And it's a term we hear a lot today, but it's really a lot more than a buzzword. And we define it as putting, as you said, the customer at the heart of every decision and action, very similar to your thinking, which is another reason why I know this would be a great conversation, because we have a common perspective on the importance of the customer sort of sitting in that chair, even if they're not visible at all times. They're sitting right next to us and our team, and we're thinking about them as we make those decisions for what we're going to do next. So if you do that, you can ensure that every interaction adds value and meets customer expectations, leads to a better customer satisfaction, loyalty, and advocacy. So I know you kind of started the conversation around customer centricity, but tell me
Yes.
a little bit more, and our audience a little bit more, and our community a little bit more, about what customer centricity means to you and how it
Yeah.
relates to your idea of customer experience excellence.
Yeah. So, Yeah, I came up with the moniker customer experience excellence, probably in my last two positions. I've used it. And the reason why I like to say experience, right? Because it truly is the whole life cycle. It's from
Yes.
it's what does the customer experience with each and every single phone call, contact, online experience, interacting with your website, interacting with other things, even LinkedIn posts is, part of the overall experience. So what it means to me, and it's funny how these kind of relate back to some of the previous topics that we've spoken about. It's really truly understanding the industry that your customers are in, the market that they're in, what they are experiencing themselves, how you then relate to that experience and how you can enhance the experience. There, circling back to the value engagement topic. And and so and that's why I kind of was talking about the flat sort of survey type of thing, and looking at net promoter scores. To me, that just doesn't do anything for you. You have to measure the whole experience, right? A flat survey producing a score to me is not very helpful, right? And so it really means the whole, you know the whole picture, and being able to help your customers with their entire experience.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And whether you call it customer experience or customer journey, what I think you're trying to say is not just how the process of buying from you,
Okay.
getting to the buy, because that's just really the beginning of the relationship, right?
That's right.
Especially in
Yep.
B2B. But everything that happens thereafter is
Yes.
just as important, right? I think is what
Yeah.
you're trying to emphasize, if I'm hearing
Exactly,
you correctly.
because these really are, the term partnership's probably overused, but it's a long-term, multi-year engagement if you're doing it right, and
Oh,
over decades.
yes. And you're talking about, those interactions, right? Those touch points and those moments of truth, right? That
Yes,
really define whether or not you really are customer centric. It comes out
that's
in
right.
those moments of truth. So, a customer centric approach is only as effective as the data that informs it. And I know you've been mentioning that some of these surveys, as a data scientist in my it's most of my career, I understand the importance of customer research, market research, competitive intelligence, and all
Yeah,
that. You need good insights to make effective, confident decisions fast, right?
absolutely.
But you got to have the right kinds of data. So I'd love to talk a little bit more about data and what
Hmm.
data you have found most valuable for making those informed customer centric decisions.
Yeah. So I have to relate it back to, again, a topic I keep repeating, but it's the measurement of value. And so, it can be simple. It used to be called return on investment, but that's such an old term now, because it's more than that. So it's things like, yes, cost saving, reducing bottlenecks, reducing lags in your customers' innovation, and really helping them accelerate. In a life science example, everyone, you can look at like 20 companies out there, and all of them say that they're accelerating drug development, right? And so it's, you have to dig into that, but the reality is, what they mean when they say that is they're helping their customers innovate faster. And so how do you measure that? There's many different ways to measure that, but that's almost the challenge, is how do you actually measure it? I personally, putting the value moniker on it, measure it through cost reduction, speed through the workflow process, identifying lags and reducing them, bottlenecks, you could also say, and then putting an actual measurement to that. So you can do that in concert with your customers, And they actually, some companies, have departments that actually are doing, measuring the operational efficiency. So if you partner with them to add and create, actual monetary value, monetize it, then that's going to help measure your progress and ultimately the results, the impact that you're having for your customers.
I think you said something really important, and I don't want us just to gloss over it. And
Mhm.
that is, how do you help them achieve their growth trajectory? So
Yeah.
they have a growth trajectory, and that is measurable. And so,
Yes.
how could you relate what you are bringing to the table to their growth trajectory as a measure? I think that is something that could be
Yeah.
worth having a deeper conversation about. But that might be something that our
Yeah.
community should consider, is
Yeah.
how do we match up what we're trying to achieve for our company and how that relates to what we're doing and the value that we're trying to create for our customers, and then ultimately their growth trajectory. Because if you can
Absolutely.
show your customers how you have helped them achieve their growth trajectory, I mean, why would that relationship is going to be ongoing for years to
They'll
come.
love you forever.
Yes, they'll love you forever. That's true. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about data, and as a company that is all about data, we know it's very, very challenging for many of our customers. They're swimming in data, they're inundated with data. And so they have a tendency sometimes to get so immersed in the data, looking for little gems that it
Yeah.
leads to sort of paralysis analysis. And I know you've been there.
Yes.
So we are big believers in understanding what decision you need to make. If you know what decisions you need to make, then you can start asking yourself the question, what kind of information do I need to be able to make that decision? And then what data do I need to either access or find in order to get that information, right? So I
Yeah.
think if you can start with the question related to the decision, you'll have a more successful
Absolutely.
experience in getting insights from data. So we do recommend both qualitative and quantitative data, things like customer feedback, customer purchase history, engagement measures. And one of the things that we help a lot of customers create are customer advisory boards. I mean,
Mm.
we work with
Yeah.
companies of all sizes, as you know, and sometimes they don't have unlimited resources or internal expertise to do a tremendous amount of their own primary research. They might
Mm.
leverage research from, an industry association or a market analyst, but a customer advisory board can be an extremely valuable way to get some important information to help you make
Yeah.
decisions. So I want to ask you
Absolutely.
this last question. What data, when you think about all the data that you have and your teams have leveraged, have you found to be the most helpful in making customer-centric decisions?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought up the advisory board, because one thing that an advisory board can do is help you zone in on the right questions to ask. And so I find that interviewing, I obviously been a little bit negative on the surveys. Not that they're all bad, but I think targeted interview questions is something that is super valuable, and an advisory board could help you refine those areas. A customer advisory board can help you, and honestly, I mentioned a short while ago about being industry experts that can um, offer greater value to your customers when you engage with them. That also is going to help, right? Because then you know the right questions to ask, and they're not, as I said, like flat surveys, flat questions aren't very helpful either. And so targeted questions that are specific to the industry, specific to the customer or customers, is extremely helpful, and it helps you get better data instead of just more data. If that makes sense.
I agree. And you know, when you're talking about interviewing your customers, whether you call those one-to-one
Mhm.
in-depth interview conversations using a discussion guide, that is a form of a real
Yeah.
form of qualitative research. So if
Yes.
our listeners are wondering when should we do focus groups? When should we do these in-depth interviews? When should we use a survey? We actually have some articles on the Vision Edge Marketing website on those very topics,
Yeah.
because we do believe that
Important.
you have to conduct your own research with your customers, prospective customers, even your suppliers and other members in your ecosystem can be
Very true.
really valuable. Okay, so we've already talked a little bit about this, but I know from our work together, you know how passionate we are about selecting measures, metrics,
Yes.
and key performance indicators that help a company align their strategic initiatives with business results. Measures such as customer engagement, customer effort, customer lifetime value, they can give a company a much clearer picture of how effective their customer-centric initiatives are. You know, if you think through the companies that you have worked with, has there been sort of one overarching or umbrella or two customer-centric measures that you have, wanted to apply pretty consistently?
Yeah, there's been more than one or two for sure, but what I've found, and again, it's around the specificity, right? And so you mentioned like focus groups and so on. Just to punctuate the point that you made is that doing a focus group at the right time versus, let's say that there is a call for and a valid reason to do a survey versus the interviews, and in what, not only time frame but along that timeline, when you actually do those, I think is meaningful. So how you put those together, and it's really a strategy, right?
Yes.
Because if you don't monopolize it at the right time, you're kind of losing some of the momentum that you could be having. And so, using some of the techniques that I know that you have, and the history that you have doing this with so many companies is really invaluable at knowing, what to invoke at the right time. And so I think that kind of, it might seem like a nuance, but it's critical, right?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It is critical. So you said something a little bit earlier. You said the big word earlier, AI. You
No,
can't
yeah,
really go to the gas
big
station
letters.
without a conversation about AI, even though
Yeah,
artificial intelligence has been with us a very long time.
very long
Machine learning
time.
has been with us a very long time. And so companies are, obviously embracing various forms of AI and various AI tools. But,
Yes.
leveraging advanced analytics to uncover hidden opportunities is pretty important.
Yeah.
So, rather than just chasing the next shiny toy, which is where we are, object, which is where a lot of people are on
Yeah.
AI, I really truly cannot go to a business conversation without AI
Without.
coming
Yeah.
up. How do you
So true.
think? How do you think organizations can better leverage advanced analytics to uncover those hidden opportunities, whether those are opportunities around innovation, of
Yeah.
services or products or technologies or new customers or entering new markets? What are some ways you think companies can do that better?
Yeah, so as you know, Laura, I love data, and
Yes.
the reason why I'm so excited about AI is I think it's going to help advanced analytics, right? Because it's about get sorting through the data faster. It's just one of the things that AI does. And so the advanced analytics, I like to really liken it as super focused on the right topics, being able to dive deep into the data. But so making sure it's more rich is the way I like to look at it. Kind of like I was saying, the flat survey example is just that. The advanced analytics, you want to have it to be more in depth, so you can trust it more and you can compare it to more things. And that's where some of these other, and AI is a compilation of a lot of different capabilities, right? But some of those capabilities can really help your advanced analytics quest to really pinpoint and put different results together, that maybe you hadn't thought about before, right? So it
Yes.
really is advanced.
Yes. And, one of the things that analytics can help companies do is build out models.
Yeah,
And, because models, data models, obviously they can be very simplistic or very, very complex.
complex. Yeah,
And one of the things I always caution companies who don't have a lot of analytical muscle yet is, start with the simple before you try to do the complex. I
yeah.
always use this phrase, Copernicus before NASA. Get an
That's right.
understanding of the model of the universe right first, and then you can add in all the other
Yeah,
information about the rest, other components of the universe. And so, just basic models that companies
yeah,
need to be able to build, whether that's a segmentation model or persona models or, customer journey, customer
yep,
experience models, whatever those are, get those nailed down simply, and then you can expand on them. So leveraging the right data is
yep.
really key to making strategic decisions that benefit your business, but also just as importantly, your customers. So we're going to wrap up. And you have been awesome. And I
Mhm.
always appreciate your insights. Thank you. Thank you for the gift of your
Well,
wisdom and,
thank you, Laura.
and experience. Do you have any last thoughts or key things you want to mention and share with our community?
No, I think encourage the listeners to to look at the tools that you have on the website,
Thank you.
and I think there's some amazing things there. We've worked together numerous times now, and it was so valuable, and we're all for different things, right? And so
Yes.
it I think we should probably dig into some of these topics. I'd love to hear from your viewers and listeners what topic they would like for future podcasts, because as we mentioned in the beginning, I kind of some of my answers were categorical answers, and so there's a whole lot that we can dig into. So I'd love to hear from your audience what more they would like to hear about.
I would too. You're right. We did touch on a lot of topics, but we certainly didn't go very deep, but we definitely went pretty broad. And I
Yes.
really appreciate this insightful conversation. And I hope all of our members of our community took away at least one good idea. And speaking of the members of the community, take a moment to think about your organization. What's one barrier to revenue growth you could overcome by either focusing on better operational excellence, customer centricity, or data-driven decision making? Start there. Of course, for more tools, insights, and strategies, we welcome you to visit us at our website or connect with us on LinkedIn. I'd love to keep the conversation going. I know Heather would too. So,
Absolutely.
visit us and reach out. So thank you, Heather, and to our community. We hope you found this episode of What's Your Edge helpful. What's Your Edge is the creation of Vision Edge Marketing, founded in 1989. We help our customers solve the most difficult challenges when it comes to using data, analytics, process, and measurement to accelerate growth, create customer value, and improve performance. And we always welcome hearing from you.